Okay, and I think we are live. Good morning. Welcome to Small Business Chat. We are here today with Sally Wadhwa, our tech diva and fearless founder of the Fearless Tech Lounge. Welcome to today's show on Small Business Chat. How are you, Sally?
I'm very well. Very good.
Thank you for coming again. You're like a second timer now. So yes, lovely to see your face and hear your wisdom and knowledge. So here for a cuppa and a chat. So thank you so much for joining us if you're live or watching the replay. Today's topic is going to discuss alternatives to Facebook. And we've had this scheduled for, pretty much half a year now when we were going through topics. We knew we wanted to have this, I'd put it into the schedule, and then of course, who better to talk to, because I know that Sally is part of your massive, extensive knowledge. I know that you're able to test platforms. You're constantly looking at different platforms to help your community. So it's wonderful to have you here. But Karen, who can't be with us today, but we're just saying a shout out to Karen. When we started Small Business Chat, we absolutely streamed directly into Facebook. We started with that. And as you know, with Karen and I and our ethos of business for good, we question what we're doing in terms of business owners, what platforms we're using, how is this working. And I think it's safe to say, I don't think anybody is naive to how Facebook has received its criticism over the past couple of years. In fact, since Cambridge Analytica, impacts on privacy, we're talking about issues with mental health, how the algorithm works. There are so many aspects here. And then more recently, we've had the whistleblower, Frances Haugen, that was just talking and saying how, yes, this actively can harm children, it can cause division, and actually weakens democracy, which, pretty big sort of accusations here as to how Facebook isn't managing that. And of course, they're coming back. But you know what I found really interesting, Sally, is that I was reading this article from Mark Ritson on Marketing Week.
Yeah.
And Facebook has received a battering in terms of trust, and yet 2/3 of 2 billion people will open Facebook today. And it is increasing its sort of like user base, it's increasing its daily usage, share price goes up. I mean, when the power outage happened, I think it dipped by like 4 billion white top or whatever, but it's going to go back up because obviously it's still growing. So I from a PR perspective, and actually definitely when we're looking at from an ethical perspective, it's like, wow, as Mark Ritson says, it's like, well, this is the weirdest case of, trust obviously doesn't mean, it means squat when it comes to us using it. So it brings to mind that question of how plugged in are we? And then, we just discussed offline, it's like mental health is a massive issue. So what I'd love to hear from you, and I'm going to let you take it away, is, let's hear your thoughts on it. I know I've got clients, Karen and I have both got clients. We need social media to promote our businesses, but there is a conflict. And part of us, the reason why we have this challenge, you think you're plugged in, how can we break away? So tell us what you think about what you've seen over Facebook and, how it's really impacting your community.
Right. I think that bringing up the mental health is so important. It's a case of how when we're talking about marketing and how you should be, sorry, I use that word should, how you should be posting about your product. You should be posting things about yourself, and people know about you, showing the real you and all of this. And what that actually means to an individual, because it's easy for us to say that this is how you market your products, market your business. But if being on a platform doesn't suit you or doesn't make you feel good, then forcing yourself to do it just makes you withdraw. And Facebook, from a lot of my clients, it's Facebook that makes them feel that way mostly compared to other online platforms, other social networks. You hear about, for more of the younger crowd, how scrolling through Instagram gives them issues or makes them feel certain ways because it's all picture based. However, I've noticed more for my kind of clientele, it's to do with the scrolling of Facebook and that actual action, that really affects them and goes into mental health, which then affects me as a coach, and is trying to teach people how to sell. When then they get those internal blockages, then that's when their business is really affected, and then it takes time to bring them out of that and what they're seeing, what they're feeling from online. And yeah, you're right. People were this morning. I opened up Facebook. Probably about maybe about 15 minutes after I woke up.
Yes.
And it's just an automatic thing. And I tried with myself. I've like on my phone, I have an iPhone, and it puts all the social networks in one like folder.
Yes.
And I removed Facebook out of that folder, and a few times I'd have to scroll to get it. I still do it to look at it, but I can't delete it. I wouldn't delete it.
It's interesting. I've tried to delete it, and I think when we did a poll on LinkedIn. Thank you so much if you are joining us because of that poll, and it was so interesting to see the gap, because obviously we're on LinkedIn and we're talking about this from a professional capacity. So a massive 88% decided, actually, no, I would love to delete Facebook. And then you go look in the comments, and 13 were like, no, it's absolutely crucial for my business. But then when you look at the comments, people had either deleted it off personally, or actually they still needed it, and they still needed that profile there from a professional level. But there were a few people that's like, right, I started to delete it off. And you're right. We are, I think, as well, being separated. We are over the past, 18 months, 2 years. We have really got this need for community and keeping in touch with people. And on one hand, you can see how detrimental Facebook can be, because it is that sort of FOMO, and that I think that false sort of projection of how well we're doing, and everyone else's mental health is spiraling, watching that and thinking, no, it's not there. But equally, we're missing the true connection. I mean, I stopped trying to just post on Facebook and then have Zoom calls instead when I couldn't see people, or do actual physical calls, which are amazing. So I'm trying to do that more. But you are right. I'm seeing this. Will we ever be able to delete that app? And there's a part of me that when I kind of think of what it's doing and how I'm disagreeing with it, I'm watching it in industry as well. I see on one hand the travel industry is so active on Facebook. That's where they do their networking, on there and LinkedIn, but more so it's much more in line and in spirit with their personality and their character of friendliness. So you see it more on Facebook. But having said that, when I'm watching industries like the health industry or health coaches, that, just for one wrong post, they're being banned, they're being, pulled down from their account. Or I'm in a community group for health issues, and, we can't talk about certain subjects for fear of that group that's helping 10,000 women will suddenly get pulled down. So on one hand, it's like there are so many benefits to Facebook still that I would say, look, obviously we're not here to slam it. It does work. It's still, from a video perspective, from an ads perspective, it is still far better a platform, isn't it? But let's talk about the alternatives. Like, what is it that we can perhaps look at?
I think definitely obviously there are alternatives. But when you're thinking about moving off Facebook, there are various things to think about. Like, I mean, we've said that the pros of Facebook in regards to groups. So a lot of people have their communities in the group section. And when you're having a Facebook group and you're using that and you're posting, especially for those entrepreneurs who are unsteady with Facebook, are only there just to use that free service, you're up against an algorithm. So when you're posting something and then you look at your group and think, well, nobody's spoken, nobody's commented, nobody's liked it, nobody's done, has anyone even seen it? Well, likelihood is they haven't seen it. And then letting that, there's a chance that could affect you as well. So thinking thinking in regards to that you have an algorithm to beat when you are using Facebook is one thing that you all need to keep in mind, because that changes all the time. So at one place you might have like lots of engagement in your community, and some days you might not, and it's not to do with you, it's to do with the algorithm, what Facebook wants to show to that person. We mentioned, touch on that program, The Social Dilemma, how it chooses what people see. That's still going on, even with your business posts, because they're all posts, it's all information. Also, the thinking about the example that we've just had when Facebook went down, and Instagram and WhatsApp. But when Facebook went down, people they couldn't speak to their communities. There was no control over that. There were people thinking, oh my God, I've got groups of 20,000 people or 5,000 or my masterminds on there, and we can't reach them. And that's a scary thought when these are people that you've gathered that are paying you, or that you've got in a free community that you're using to build your business and let people know about you, and then all of a sudden that's gone. It's like a whole marketing channel that's just disappeared. Then we've got the thinking about how if you've got like no control over the people in there. So if you don't have email addresses, you can't you don't actually own that data. Facebook owns it. So you need to think about how you can look after your audience, your community, and making sure that they're being looked after in the way of privacy as well. And what they post, that they're in a safe space, they're making sure rules and all of those things. And it all adds up to pressure on yourself as a community owner. And we do this. We do it because people are always on Facebook. And we do it because we think that maybe, that's the only option. And we also do it because people are on Facebook anyway. So we want to get our stuff seen. We want to put content out there that we know is going to be seen, but we know deep down, but that's not the reality of it. That's just what they say happens. So looking at alternatives, I've got a variety of alternatives that we're going to go through. So some are attached to LMS platforms where you would host your courses. I've got a couple of app ones. We're going to go through Mighty Networks and one called Circle.so. I've got my post-it notes here. That's why I keep looking down.
Love a post-it.
Always. Okay, right. So I want to start off with talking about. I've included WhatsApp. Now, I read somewhere actually this morning when I was just looking at some I was just looking online at people's comments on their views of having communities on WhatsApp and groups on WhatsApp. And someone said that nobody ever says, oh no, when someone says, oh, let's set up a WhatsApp group. That's not true, because when someone says, let's set up a WhatsApp group, or if I get added, it goes straight away on mute. Because notifications on your phone the notifications drive me crazy, and I can imagine that you don't want to be disturbed with notifications all the time. On your computer, it's one thing, but then on your phone as well. So having groups on WhatsApp, okay, you can add to them right away. You have their phone number. You could do status updates. You can send files. It's good for international people as well, because you can have that free service there, but it's not amazing for a business owner, for an entrepreneur, for a digital product owner. It's not the best thing if you have over a certain amount of people. An alternative is to that, if you're do you know what, this wasn't on my list, but it's just come into my head, is Voxer. So Voxer is an audio app, and it's like a walkie-talkie. So you can have real life conversation. It is an adult walkie-talkie. So you can have real life conversations, real time conversations, and have a group set up on the paid version, and you can have voice conversations, which some people do prefer. Again, if you go to a high amount of people, it's not that manageable. So more intimate groups, I would say WhatsApp and Voxer would work for community building.
actually, because in terms of, I'm just going to add to that actually, from some of the things that we've done, WhatsApp and why you might be on a WhatsApp group for work. You know, you've also got Slack, you've got like all these project management tools that I think you might mention.
I'm going to come to those next. Yeah.
Well, I'll let you go for that.
We've got Slack and Telegram. So Slack is more like office based, kind of corporate based. And Telegram, again, an app, very easy to use. I've been a member of a community on Telegram and it worked really, really well. It was a health and wellness group. When I think about using it for coaching, I can see it works. But it's, and I like the fact that it's an app. And you can share files, but you can't really like white label it in the way of, you can't make it match your brand. You can't have that visual side of things. And again, with Slack, it gets quite pricey to add more and more people to Slack and not just use the free version. So when choosing and looking at your community builder, you also need to be thinking about your budget, which will help the deciding factor on what you actually choose. Now, when you invest in your community and in your platform, you're going to get more back. But if you're moving a free community from Facebook to somewhere else, obviously you're going to be making, because it's a high amount of people, you're going to be making more of an investment. And it brings up the question, is my community building that much of a marketing stream for me that I need to put money towards this? I need to invest in this. And then it goes into looking into your stats of how much you're selling through your community, what you're using them for, or how much they're integrating and collaborating and doing, and because that builds up your community as well. And you want people to be recommending it to other people, because that's how it grows. So those are apps. So WhatsApp, Voxer, Slack, and Telegram. Some have free versions, more features you would need to pay for. And all of these would be, I would say, would be good for the smaller communities or for masterminds or for the paid products. Okay, next I want to go to talk about Kajabi and NewZen. So NewZen, you might remember I mentioned previously in the last slide when we're talking about tech tools, and then there's Kajabi as well. So what Kajabi and NewZen have done is they've inbuilt community platforms into their LMS platforms. So what this means is you can have all of your courses, all of your digital products hosted, and your funnels and so on hosted on these platforms. You might even already use them, but then you have the community feature as well. So the advantage to this is you can attach a group or a community per product, or you can have just one free group that people can have access to. Now, again, this Kajabi does have an app. NewZen doesn't. Again, this is requiring people to log in and actually view this information, view the conversation and take part in it. So I mentioned to you earlier, so a lot of way that you would do this, if they're not in there already, is you would set up email notifications to be sent when someone adds some adds a post in. So you could set these notifications up, whether it's just the host adding a post in, and then they can go in and adjust the settings to whether they want it for everyone or just the major announcements and so on. But again, this is requiring people to log into somewhere different. So you really need to make sure that any material that you're giving out or any kind of communication that you're sending, you are adding in the login for the community everywhere you mention it. So if you mention in the email, have a link behind it so they can go straight to it. So you want to make it as easy as possible for them to sign in and go and look right away, rather than thinking, oh, I'll just look at the end of each day. The other benefit is that if they are logging into the platform to do your course content because they've purchased something, they're going to be looking at the community as well. So everything all in one place for them is a good idea. I used NewZen to host a community of 10 people. So this is when the Fearless Tech Land launched. And I got all the founding members because I wanted to test the platform because then I could tell them about it. And it was missing features. And the features that I love about Facebook is you can go live.
Yeah.
And the kind of communication you have, like in real, if someone's online and they see the notification, then they'll come and comment. And it's more, you know, it's more real. It's more like the communication, just more, yeah. Sorry, I lost the word there. And I ended up moving back to Facebook with the view of moving back offline to, I'm going to get my choice. I haven't gone through them all, but it's going to be Mighty Networks.
Yes.
Now, yeah, Mighty Networks is this company is amazing. The founders are incredible for Mighty Networks. If you really look into why the platform was built and who the girls are, the people are that created it, it's really, really good. And it was for this reason, to have a different community base online that is more healthier. It's very easy to use. There is a system where members can DM each other so they can form their own relationships. You can turn that on and off. You can brand it. They have a payment gateway. So for online business owners, payment gateways are, if you don't want to sit down setting up PayPal buttons, you could actually use Mighty Networks payment gateway for them to pay for courses. They can pay for subscriptions. You could have like podcast communities on there. There's a lot more you can do with it, and you can use it for like courses and masterminds as well. So I'm on the community and Mighty Networks. I think it has around just over 100 people, and it feels like there's no pressure. Like you log on and it's not like a fast moving scrolling thing. Like there's that action isn't there. And I think it's probably one of the best if you look. Oh, and it's quite reasonable as well. Yes, you still have to make an investment, but the cost of it isn't too high. It's affordable for a small business owner. And then we've got like the major. Okay, this platform is absolutely beautiful. I've played about with it. It's called Circle SO, and it's incredible. It is okay. So it wouldn't be for a small business owner. We're talking like SMEs, or maybe people who have the high end masterminds. But it's worth a mention because of what it looks like and how it is. And if you're a big community builder, if you are running your business off having a group of a few thousand people, and it's doing really well for you, then I would like really invest in the platform like Circle.so. It's got the private members group. Basically it's like the upgrade from Mighty Network. So it does all the same things, but it's more brandable. It's got like the online where you can tell when people are online. They also do a 14-day trial, so it's worth, if you're anything like me, just going in and having a play with it, just so you can see, even get that feeling inside you. Yeah, there are other places other than Facebook to run your community, and just to see what it feels like, just to feel that navigation, because it might even make you personally, more open to other communities on different platforms. Even though you're moving to yours, there might still be a resistance there. So even any of these, they have free trials just to go or take a look, or even try it out for yourself. Even say to your community, I'm just going to give this a go. Do a few if you want to do a beta run with me, just to see what works for you. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And you can say if it works or if it doesn't work. At least you're trying to improve not just the mental health, but also the quality of the content and work that you're providing for your audience, because you have a responsibility as a leader, as a group host, to actually do that for your members.
I totally agree. And actually, I don't actually see anything wrong where you had mentioned The issue is that you have to then go and log in, whereas you would just be automatically in the zone, and then you can go. So on Facebook, you know we're logging in at the end of the day, so at least they would have access. But actually, there's something quite healthy, I find, by separating it, of going, actually, it's only when I have to log in will I set aside time. I mean, a lot of the business owners and, you know, companies I've been speaking with and the clients there, they're just overwhelmed. And actually, they're seeing more and more working from home, this hybrid community. There's got to be a clear distinction from when you're doing work to when you're actually playing. And so I absolutely, I see nothing wrong with saying, actually, you're going to have to log in to do it, because you want to set aside time. If you're doing coursework, you need to set aside time to do that course.
Intentionally.
You have to do it intentionally. I think it'll come out better for productivity, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Trying to recruit people to do it. Can I just say, and I'm going to try this myself, it might be worth just asking them, and so, because by doing this poll on LinkedIn and seeing how many people were so keen to get off Facebook, and I think the problem is that we probably hold ourselves up most of the time to leave it or to do something different. And actually, just by seeing, and this isn't my own connections, this is second, third connections that are actually so interested in this question to answer, to reply, to provide their views of, I would really like to leave LinkedIn. So somewhere along the lines, I think some of us have got to make that change first and go, I'm not using it anymore. I'm going to be doing it on here. And people will, I believe people will follow, because you're doing it for the right reasons.
I think with us as well, we've been in business, both our businesses have been running since before Facebook. Okay, right. So I've been self-employed since before Facebook. And when I think about how marketing has changed before these social networks have happened, and even still, I remember when I had my first Facebook account, I used a fake name. I used, no, don't worry. So I used a fake name because I wasn't sure about, everyone was saying, don't use your real name. People are watching, like this is Big Brother and all of this stuff. But so it was a change, and even people weren't sure then. So I think when you're moving away, you're right. You've just got to take that step and say, right, I'm going to do this. And yes, it's going to be done differently, but I'm going to do it with power, with intention, that this is a good thing to do. And I'm just going to start and make that decision for my community, and this is the way it is.
And it does work. I think there is a real difference to where you're building the community. Like I shout out to Yellow Tuxedo and Digital Circus, but they don't do a Facebook group, but they are repurposing content on Facebook. And the same for me. I don't really want to be holding a community space on Facebook myself. So we've done the one thing that I find, like you, created such a lovely community. I've been in various masterminds on Facebook, so you've connected. I never felt at ease with making those connections on my personal Facebook page. And so I've either, especially when they're just selling. So I now say, find me on LinkedIn now. So I'm being a bit clear about that. Obviously, the people who like your good self, we've met. That's different. I know we'll be down the path. You qualify for my personal Facebook page. We have the same weird sense of humour. It's fine. But there is now what I've loved about LinkedIn for the past 2 years is that it has softened. It is not so much about, I'm just bragging about my accomplishments. We are asking some really important questions that affect us. We're talking about mental health. We're talking about the menopause on LinkedIn now, because this is really important. There is nothing that is, out of bounds or would be seen. We've each got our little corner of how we want to work, how we want to network on LinkedIn. We can have groups, we can have pages, albeit there is some barrier. But for me, we've now created small business chat on LinkedIn as a page. So that to me is like, right, how am I going to, get through that? Going back to Digital Circus, they're doing Zoom calls, which I forget to make, guys. But, again, it's just the timings of it. I wouldn't be able to make the live either if it was on Facebook. But I really love the way that they've built that community up. So much more fun. And equally, a shout out to Pebble magazine, which, you know, again, I'm loving because I'm learning about their eco-conscious ideas, you know, that lifestyle. And from an ethical point of view, creating that membership and that community. I love the fact she moved to Mighty Networks. So it can be done. I'm really interested to see how far you can cut off something like this. There'll be some elements that we cannot escape from it, but it can be done, I believe. Perhaps that, you know, we have to consider some industries. When I think about some of my colleagues in travel, it's like, oh, they're all on there on Facebook. Or if you are B2C facing, you know, Facebook ads, for example, how we're going to reach them. You want to show that there is engagement there for those ads to work. So yeah, this is really interesting. And also, I mean, do you know what else I've also seen, Sally, is that Clubhouse, when that got introduced, I know that it was quite restrictive for Apple users at the beginning. But it was really fascinating to see these communities, certain talks, certain people would create that community around it. Those discussions would be had, really popular ones, and they're still going. And and I love the audio aspect of it because it was so much more engaging. I know people have just gone, oh, but where's it gone now? It's still there.
Yeah, it is still there. I haven't opened it, but it is still there. People are still using it. But this also brings in the fact how different people take in information in different ways. So when you are building your community, are you having the right amount of audio, written content, video content? These are still all things to think about. You don't have to do all three. You just what's for your ideal audience. And each of these platforms have specialize in different things. Like we mentioned Voxer, which is audio. But I do think that thinking about learning styles also comes into when you're choosing your community platform.
Amazing. Absolutely. Oh my God, there's so many aspects here. The other thing that I wanted to give a shout out for, I mean, I'm just laughing. I've made so many notes because I'm addicted to Instagram. I will put my hands up. I love that platform. But, you know, I've wasted time on Instagram, and also I'm getting really quite huffy and grumpy about the whole, in order for this to work to my business, I'm going to have to do video. So at the moment, you know, a lot of where I'm thinking as business, LinkedIn is my preferred platform. Started to go back to Twitter. It's great for breaking news. Again, this is the other element of it. The hashtags, people can find you, but, you know, it will grow from that element. I still like the chatability of Twitter. That to me is that's not going anywhere. And I had to laugh with the power outage where everything was going down.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Hello, everyone.
It's like, hello, everyone. I think we both screen grabbed the same.
Yeah, but what the funny thing was is like WhatsApp commented hello, and it's like, hold on, you're not working, so how are you commenting?
They're still there. It's like our platform's down, but we've got access to us. We're on Twitter, so yeah, there you go. Exactly that.
We've spoken about like taking your community off Facebook, but there is also what about your actual business marketing?
Yeah.
And where this comes in. Yeah, you're saying you LinkedIn is one of the main ones for you, but remembering in regards to our business when we're marketing to also think about where do we want to post, not what kind of content do we want to create. Are we looking at just putting information into a scrolling platform, so a social network, or what about things like SEO and utilizing platforms like Pinterest, YouTube, even like Google My Business, Google, that side of Google as well. There is more that those marketing methods like SEO is still there, especially for businesses who want to advertise locally. And not forgetting that's what you need to think about. What social network are you putting your efforts into to help you, and take the pressure off yourself to know that you don't just have to be creating this kind of content over and like getting on that content machine over and over again to get people to see you, because that's what people do on social networks. There's still face-to-face networking as well. Let's not forget the stuff that happens offline.
Absolutely. And that was for a lot of the clients that I'm working with that are just overwhelmed and, you know, at whatever range of business that level that they're at, there are certain things that are never going away. The fact that you're online is to make sure that you've got the connection offline, that you can pick up the phone or you can send out your email marketing and you've got hold of them. You brought up a very good point earlier in terms of, and that's something Karen and I, throughout our series, throughout Small Business Chat, you know, for us, it's about your community. You have to build that offline, and it is your email. It's that to us is your goal. Your website is your hub for all of these activities that you're bringing back down to sign up to your email list, and then you've got that data. That's what you hold in, and you're nurturing that. So again, we would, like you say, this goes on YouTube. Then I'm sending it out on various on various social media channels. But there's that cycle. So again, I'm being much more selective as to where we're promoting it, what we're doing it. It's taking a while. It can take a phase. You know, I'm not suggesting that anybody does this cold turkey because, like you said, Sally, you've already created a following. It's there. But I think, just to sort of like wrap up, I don't think that we're alone in how we're thinking, how we're viewing these things. Ask the question, first of all. Ask your community, where would you be? And ultimately, I feel that if more people were to take that step, people would follow. They'll find you there.
Definitely. I think the most important thing is, as a community host and as a business, just try something different. Ask them and give it a go. And don't be afraid to take that step out of the comfort zone that's been created for us by Facebook.
FOMO as well, I feel. It's like,
the FOMO. We meant, need to.
We're tied in. I can't ignore my family on WhatsApp because that's not going to happen. But you know, from a personal level, we are tied in, but I think we do have some variety of control. I'd be really interested if you are a business that deals to B2C. Obviously, it'd be really interesting to hear from you. Pop it down, pop your comments in there. We'd love to hear from you. But thank you so much, Sally. I've really appreciated this. This has been a conversation. I don't think it's ever going to get old. I don't think that. You know, I think that there are various things that will take place with Facebook and its platforms that will make us question this. I think it'll be only a time before people just go enough's enough and then move away. But some of us will always have a hand in somewhere, somehow. But if you have found this interesting, then please let us know in the comments below. If you've got any questions, please let us know so that Sally can answer, because Sally's the expert here. Please follow Sally as well. You know, you are, what platforms are you on, Sally?
I'm on Instagram.
That's
and
LinkedIn, absolutely.
I will definitely go, if you're commenting, if you have any questions, I'll definitely go through the comments on the LinkedIn post.
Brilliant.
And get them
on there. And then also, just finally, just thank you so much. Don't forget, if you like this type of topic that we're talking for small businesses designed and SMEs and designed to sort of inspire and empower, please don't forget to press the subscribe button. And also in the comments, in the description, you'll see access to our newsletters where you can actually have these chats delivered straight to your inbox. So thank you so much. It's been fabulous to have you, Sally, and everyone. Take care. Thank you very much for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.